right. Hi, everyone. My name is Bonnie Garcia Glockner. I am, for better or for worse, the Assistant Director of the Office of National Fellowships. So those of you that are here today, have you been on the Fulbright interest list for a while? Or are you just hearing about this now and decided to come out? Mixed bag of people.
I just heard about it a few weeks ago.
Perfect. Okay. Well, welcome. If you're not familiar with our office, ONF works with students as they're applying for all sorts of different fellowships and awards, as does OGFA up in the 4th floor. So they're working with graduate students as they do this. And today, if you're interested in Fulbright and you've done any bit of research, you know that it is a pretty intense application process. So here at Florida State, we have a pretty involved internal process that goes with that, so that people are as prepared as possible for submitting that and feeling confident in their submission. And the bulk of that application is really the writing component. There's no way around that, right? So what we wanted to do today was start getting you all thinking about how you approach the writing process for the Fulbright application. So today with us, we also have Dr. Albert from the Reading Writing Center. So I'm going to very briefly go over sort of the components of the Fulbright application as far as the written pieces and just some tips that we have for that. And then I'm going to pass it over and we will do some writing exercises and just start thinking about that creative process. Okay, so the Fulbright, some important tips for success here. You do not want to be waiting until the deadline, right? And this is even just the internal FSU deadline to begin that process. It is very in-depth. You want to make sure you have plenty of time to go through that, right? And the other one, which seems kind of silly, but we like to point out, is that the application does not include a spell check function. So as you're working on your application, we work with a lot of people that use like Google Docs. That's a very quick way to do that. You can do the same thing through the Microsoft Docs, which is all behind your password, so you can feel safe and secure with that. But just make sure that you're working sort of in that document. And oftentimes what we get with students, hey, welcome, is just because something doesn't work for a particular essay that you're composing, maybe there's an example that you wanted to use, but it doesn't seem to fit. You think something like Google Docs or one of the other doc systems, go ahead and like pull it out, put it at the bottom, and you can always come back to it later. So it's pretty common for us to think about like, okay, maybe this didn't work here, but how can we incorporate it somewhere else? So having some sort of living document that you can go back to meeting after meeting can be really helpful as you go through the process. So essay formatting. This is a really big deal for us because Fulbright likes it to be a very specific way when you submit. And if you just set your document up early, this will make that process so much easier, right? You have your statement of grant purpose. If you're doing an ETA, this is a 1-page document. If you're doing a study research, this is a 2-page document. Single space, Times New Roman, size 12 font, 1-inch margin. It seems so standard, and yet every submission cycle, there is someone who wants to rage against that machine. So please don't let that be you. Go ahead and set it up now. It'll set you up for success. That first 3 lines are really going to be statement of grant purpose, your name, country, field of study. And then if you're doing a study research, you may have a project title, right? Or if you're doing a creative award, it may have a project title. But as you can see, if you only have 1 page to talk about your statement of purpose and 2 whole lines are taken up just with statement of purpose and your name, that can really eat into the area that you have to work with. So just be aware that that's already there. Just subtract those 2 lines and from the rest of your work. So we have a few examples here just to give you an idea of what that looks like for both the ETA and the Creative Writing Award. Obviously, when you start meeting with us, we will try to get that into shape well before you're too into the process. In the case of the statement of grant purpose for the creative and academic awards, you will have a 2nd-page header, and they're pretty, not as specific, but there's 2 ways that you need to set up that 2nd page. I do want to point out that when we say like the header or the first few lines, we really mean the first few lines. This is not the actual header like you would normally edit in a document. this is literally the first 2 lines of the document or the first line of that second page. So just be aware, okay? If you want to see more about what the statement of grant purpose is, what it should entail, I encourage you to check out some of our other workshops. So we break down each of the different award types and what's required for each of those awards, and it'll give you a better understanding of how you should approach that particular document for that award. With the personal statement, again, this is a 1-page single space, size 12 font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margin, personal statement, name, country, field of study. So if you're just getting this set up now, it'll make the process so much easier later on. And then when we have to do the tech review in-house, it'll go much faster. Okay. Any questions about those formatings? Okay, so I will point out that, right, 1 page is not a whole heck of a lot of space to get across the story of Ude. And so what you'll see in our previous presentations as well is that we're not supposed to get the whole story of Ude, right? This is some narrative that is, I can't tell if more people are coming in or not. Okay, this is supposed to be a particular narrative that gets at why you need to be in a particular country or why you are pursuing a particular award. And so when you start working with your advisor or you start putting down those ideas, we're going to be looking at how can we pull out a story that really encapsulates what you're trying to get across, but is still telling enough of you that it couldn't be anyone else's application, right? We want it to be authentic to your story. Okay, so what makes a strong application, right? You have to have this commitment to the Fulbright mission. They like to see very limited previous in-country experience from their applicants. Certainly, if you have a language proficiency in a country's language, or if you have a desire and a plan to learn that language, that's something that you should be articulating. In the cases of like your ETAs, well, even your study research, right? You want that project that you have to do, or the supplemental, or even just the work that you're doing there to be country specific. So why is it that you need to be doing that project in that country for that duration of time? And you want that to be feasible. So if you're like, I'm going to solve all of the litter problems in a particular place, that's probably not feasible in the amount of time that you're there. So you'll want to be working with your advisor to make sure, is this actually within the bounds of what I have to work with while I'm there? For your ETAs, they're also going to want to see the pedagogy. So how do you plan to like engage those students? How do you get them to learn English, right? So all things to keep in mind. Again, I definitely recommend checking out our previous workshops if you want to get into the specifics of each of those awards. And that's all up on YouTube. Okay, something that sometimes gets neglected until the end is that you do have these shorter answer questions as well. And so this is where having that living document can come in really handy. So if there's a particular example or something that you wanted to talk about as far as engaging in the country, but it didn't seem to fit elsewhere in your documents, being able to talk about that in your host country engagement short answer is a nice way of bringing that back up. They also want to know what you plan to do once you return to the US. So, giving a really brief synopsis of maybe there's graduate school on your horizon, maybe it's finishing up your program, maybe the particular field or career that you're hoping to go into. They want to see how Fulbright is also going to impact those plans as well. And then this is entirely optional, but sometimes putting down additional funding expenses. So maybe you're applying to like a study research program in the UK. Well, sometimes students will also put, in addition to this, I am also applying to something like a Marshall application, right? And in which case, that's just another place that you can put down that shows, you're also with it trying to get over there, that this program doing this particular project is meaningful for you in that way. So as you're going along, like I said, if there are things that don't seem to fit your overall essays, those longer pieces, maybe put them to the side, or maybe in having conversations with your advisor, they're like, oh, maybe that's something that we can touch on later. More than likely, it'll be, how can we fit it into these shorter answer questions so that you're not just reiterating what you did in your longer pieces. Okay. So our internal process, I want to give you guys a few dates that are going to be coming up well in the summer, but they're closer than you think. First and foremost, we have an intent to participate and a pre-application, and those are both due June 9th. So The intent to participate is literally just that. I intend to participate. This is the country that I'm thinking about. This is the award, and whether or not you have an advisor that you're working with or one that you want to work with, right? The pre-application is where we want to see that first draft of the statement of grant purpose and your personal statement. They in no way need to be polished. We don't expect that. In some cases, they may not even be a full page, but what they do need to be is at least an attempt at an essay and not just a bullet list of what you would like to talk about. But I think sometimes students get caught up and they're like, well, I did the intent to participate. I'm done. It's like, no, you got to get that pre-application in. And it's really important that it comes in June 9th because we want to make sure we are maximizing the time that you have to work with an advisor. The list of references is also due to the same site, which is our SurveyMonkey site, which I promise will be available by Friday. And that is due July 19th. So for your ETAs, these are 3 recommenders. For your study research, this is 3 letter writers. What you're doing for us is you're adding it to the SurveyMonkey site. We send that person an email that says, here's some tips on how to write like a good letter of recommendation or write a good reference for these particular types of awards. So really, really important you get that in by July 19th. Again, that's a signal to us too that you are serious about going through this process and really committing to it. So we want to make sure that we are helping you as much as possible as you go through that. As I mentioned, both of those are through the SurveyMonkey site. This last one is our on-campus deadline. So for ETAs, your entire application, everything must be submitted to the Fulbright website by this August 23rd deadline. For study research, it is August 24th. If you come to the workshop tomorrow, we will get into the weeds about what happens on those days. But it is crucial that you are getting everything in on that date, which is why we have things due in June. It's why we have things due in July, so that you are more than ready for that August deadline. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that part or any of the parts previous? Anyone on Zoom have any questions? Yeah.
So the on-campus deadline, that's like the statement of purpose and all that included, everything?
Yeah, this is everything. So all of your letters from your letter writers too need to be in by that date. So when you're talking to your letter writers, make sure that you're telling them this is the, actually I would tell them that August 20th is when your stuff is due, so that they're getting it into the Fulbright system well before they need to. Yeah, it's pretty much like if you were going to submit it to Fulbright fully. The nice thing is that we can go in and unsubmit your applications. And so that's what we do. Like once you submit, we get everything together for your campus committee meeting, and then make sure that you can unsubmit, you can make any edits, resubmit before the national deadline. Okay. Anyone have any other questions, concerns? All right. Oh, yeah.
Will Fulbright take into account that you submit your application through the university? Or is it not?
It doesn't, they don't even pay attention until that October. Yeah. So, yeah, and luckily on our end, we can go in and like, if something were to happen and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this, part of our tech review in-house is like, oh, you don't have it, and like unsubmitting it, making sure you can go in and do what you need to do. Yeah. So this is just our contact information. If, like I said, if you are on the graduate side of things, you'll work with Keith and his office upstairs. And if you're on the undergraduate side of things, you'll work with us. Because I didn't introduce you. This is Dr. Keith McCall, and this is Jesse Williams. and just came in was Christine Garst. So full house here. We are happy to help however we can. Please let us know. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Albert. That's okay.
Right. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all today. So with Bonnie's information fresh in your mind, we did want you to start thinking about some of the ways that you would write about yourself. which can be tougher than it sounds. You know, in applications like these and personal statements of any sort, you are advocating for yourself. You're talking about what you've accomplished, what you hope to do in the future, what you can contribute to an organization, right? So this is going to get us drafting a little bit. Okay. All right. Oh, it's a dancing. Yeah. Good. Okay, so writing, it's a process. We know that it is messy, it's complicated, it can be illuminating, frustrating, all of these things. And ultimately, it's rewarding. Once we finish it, we put a lot of effort into it. It can be really rewarding. So just recognize that process and work through it and learn what works for you. That's most important of all. Don't compare your writing process to other people's. This is the time where you figure out what works best for your process specifically. Okay, so writing a personal statement is going to take more time than you think. Give yourself that time. It should involve multiple drafts. That includes drafts to generate ideas, drafts to refine those ideas and how they're being delivered, drafts to polish. Personal statements can be a bit intimidating and make you feel vulnerable. That's normal. And personal statements are best accomplished with outside input. So I'm going to say this a couple of times, but getting multiple layers of feedback is going to be important. Okay, so make sure that your statement follows these three main moves. One, it tells your story for this particular opportunity. You want to tailor it to the field, the prompt, and the audience. Two, it connects your past experiences with current goals through this opportunity. And three, it articulates a tangible or achievable vision of your future. So kind of going back to what Bonnie was saying earlier, you want to make sure you're writing about things that are feasible. So let's begin writing. I'm not going to take too much time talking today. Let's start writing. To prepare, open a document on your laptop or get out a notebook. And I have some prompts for us. I've also got lo-fi beats for us to listen to as we work through these prompts. I found a corgi themed one for today. So we'll just roll with that. Okay, so before you get started, here's the prompt. Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes to do this first one. It's a free writing exercise, so just write whatever comes to mind. Could be in paragraph form or a bulleted list. Respond to these questions in short, quick sentences or a list. In response to these questions, you can dream big, but include specific details whenever possible. Okay, so you can dream big, but include specific details whenever you can. Here are the questions. What does this field, opportunity, or possible career offer you? What specifically attracts you to this field and or opportunity? What does this field, program, and or opportunity have that you want? Okay, do I have a timer here? I will also get our corgi lo-fi beats in. If I can do that. Like 5 minutes, I'll leave these questions up for you to refer back to them. I also just want to say quickly that the key with free writing is to write without judgment. Just write whatever comes to mind. And you can go back and revise later. Just get your ideas down. About 30 more seconds. On here. That's recorded as well. Okay. So next up, we're going to start making some connections to your early ideas. So some more free writing, or in list form, whatever you prefer. Respond to 2 of these questions. I have several up here, so you'll just want to respond to 2 of them. How are your experiences related to your goals? How do your experiences qualify you for this opportunity? How does this opportunity advance your goals? Are there any mentors in the field, professors, instructors, I'm sorry, that says professionals, but professors count too, who have influenced your decision to pursue this field or had a significant impact on your values related to this next step? Values could be things like leadership, kindness, right? You could also imagine your ideal affiliate for your Fulbright application. Okay, so 2 of these 4 questions. We'll take 4 minutes to respond to this and then move on. About 30 more seconds. Okay, let's pause where we are. And move on to the next. So this, now we're going to articulate a vision for your future. And we'll take 3 minutes to write about this. So in an ideal world, what is your future like next year, 5 years from now? Practically, what will you be doing next year, 5 years from now? So just respond to these questions like you've been doing in free writing form or in list form. Put down as much as you can for the next 3 minutes. Okay. Once we talk through some ideas or maybe struggle with this, you want to talk about it. Yeah. About 30 more seconds. Okay, so we'll come to a conclusion wherever you are. All right. So let's just pause for a minute. I want to check in with everybody. How's it going so far? Good. Everyone's getting stuff down. How is the act of writing about what you've done, what you hope to do? Is it going all right?
The hope to do is harder.
The hope to do is
Or like
harder.
the future, talking about. the
Yeah,
future.
it really can be. So I mean, hopefully today it's just getting past that initial hurdle of starting to write about those things. And it'll get easier the more time you spend on it. Or if not easier, at least you'll know where you can go for some support. Yeah. Okay, so the next step is to start refining some of the ideas that you've written down. Okay, so I want you to look back at what you've written and start thinking about these things. We're going to use some color coding to help us determine what's relevant and maybe what we could leave out for future drafts. Okay, so anything that's most relevant to the Fulbright application, I want you to highlight those points in yellow or choose a specific color. Next, what needs more fleshing out? So if you have general descriptions that need to be more specific, highlight those in blue or another color, whatever you choose. And finally, cross out unnecessary details, cross out descriptions that don't connect to the fellowship comps that you have in mind. Are those instructions clear? So we're highlighting relevant points in yellow, highlighting points that we need to refine a little bit more, describe some more in blue, and crossing out anything that's unnecessary. Okay, we'll take about 4 minutes to do this.
It looks like there's a
Someone
message in the chat.
Okay, so it helps to get some ideas on paper to better focus on developing my personal statement. Good, I'm glad that this is helpful, that it's getting you to start some writing. That can be a real challenge just to get started. Okay, so let's continue. 4 minutes to do this. Oh, oops, forgot the 5 yeah, can't forget those. Okay, so the last bit of the writing workshop is to actually start talking about some of what you've written, whatever you choose to share. So you don't have to share everything. I've given us a couple of options or ways that we can approach this, depending on what you're comfortable with. So we can do this in person and all coordinated on Zoom. But in small groups of 2 or 3, share some of your early thoughts about this exercise. And there are 2 options. So option 1 is each person read bits or sections aloud, determine what you'd like to get feedback about or help with. So that could be fleshing out an idea, tailoring it to the Fulbright application, and brainstorm that with your group. Option 2 is just to talk about the experience of writing this draft without reading it aloud yet. So how was the experience of writing about yourself? What came easily? What was more challenging? And then what are next steps for you? Does this sound manageable? Yeah, we can take about 6 to 8 minutes to work on this.
And option 1 is pretty similar to when we start doing some of our small groups later in the summer for Fulbright. So we try to do student groups as well. So.
Yeah, great. So do we all just want to awkwardly together? It could be whoever you're.
Yeah, I don't have much to share.
Yeah.
Where are you going, guys?
Yeah.
To break out.
I think I'm like a good foundation for what I'm worried about. I guess you're phrasing it the best way. Obviously, that's like, look at that. Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah. Right, kind of like did that one, but like the other 2. Like the living part, you were unique, biggest, like the purple.
Well, are they doing the?
Yes.
And we'll just.
Yeah, I talked with. Yeah. Yeah. Next one I read. Guys, she doesn't have to say that. It's kind of just like graduate. Actually, it's like both really done. She got.
So, yeah. I mean, I never applied.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they would be kind of hire you.
He wants to.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Next year. She and I are gonna meet. I know, it's time to turn back and get them. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And I do have a second. Actually, but that I.
It looks like the audio was muted for Zoom participants. Hi, everybody on Zoom. So sorry that you weren't able to hear that, but yes, the recording is going to be posted for later.
Yes,
Yes.
anyone, as long as you are registered for the event, you'll be getting a link to the YouTube upload.
Yes.
Once it gets up there, so
Yes.
probably tomorrow or Friday.
Okay. Any questions about what we went over today? Was talking about your writing with other people a little bit helpful? Yeah. Okay. And I've already given this plug, but I'll give it one more time. The Writing Center, we can help you not only with your Fulbright applications, but any writing that you're doing for classes. It could be seminar papers, research projects you're working on, and honors in the major thesis. We can help with those drafts as well. Like I said, mostly grad students, you can meet with us in person at 3 locations: Stroger, Johnston Brown, and the Williams Building, which is the English building. You'll have access to this link later on if you're interested in making an appointment. And that's all we've got for you today. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here, for taking the time to work on your writing. Best of luck with your application. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. And hopefully you're all registered for